I was shocked to hear her say, "When I was a little girl, I hated Santa Claus." December 15th, 2011. We were unable to contact one of our customers to complete her satellite work today, so we looked ahead in our schedule and made contact with another customer, slated for later in December. We needed to upgrade her dish to get the latest channel additions, and my work didn't take very long on the outside. So I came in to chat with the customer while Lanny called in to change the receiver code and make a few changes to her programming. Grandma was kind of quiet and sat down at the kitchen table after chasing her dog into the bedroom and closing the door. One of the first things she said was, "I'm sorry, but I don't have the money to pay you for traveling. Can you just leave me a bill and I'll pay it later?" I sensed that uncomfortable feeling and replied, "Don't worry. We'll just forget about it because it's Christmas." Her house was spotless, and the Christmas tree was very neatly covered with all manner of decorations. Beyond the tree were several room dividers full of 8x10 family photographs. I complimented Grandma on her beautiful tree, and she deflected the compliment by saying, "My granddaughter is responsible for that." I then complimented her on the beautiful display of family photos across the back and side of the living room. Grandma got up slowly from the kitchen table, smiling just a little, and walked slowly past the tree toward the photo gallery. I followed, and Grandma started out explaining who was in each photograph. I was given the full meal deal as she explained who was in each photograph, how they were related to her, and a little bit about each person. I found this quite fascinating. Grandma was obviously proud of her heritage and of her own children and grandchildren. She paused a moment at her wedding photo, so I asked where she was raised. As it happens, she grew up a little over an hour's drive from my hometown. Of course, we were able to relate quite well about growing up in similar circumstances, even though she is 75 and I'm 65. As Grandma continued to introduce me to her family, she paused at the photo of her son and informed me that he had taken his own life at the age of 35, some 15 years ago. I could sense the pain as she suppressed the tears, and I asked if I could give her a hug. No hesitation there. After she released me, she thanked me for being so kind and for allowing her to share her deepest sorrow. She then continued the family tour, and we walked back to the kitchen table and sat down. At this point, Grandma felt free to share more of her personal life story. She explained that it is a rare opportunity for her to talk this freely with someone who was a stranger just minutes before, and now she felt as though we were friends. She poured her heart out about the hard times they had while she was growing up as a little girl, as she was just one of 14 children. Dad was very strict with the kids, and Mom was the peacemaker in the family. There were many times that the family had absolutely nothing to eat. In fact, at times they went days with no food at all. That was when she looked right at me, wearing my Santa hat, and she said, "When I was a little girl, I hated Santa Claus because he never came to our house." She went on to say that her mom told her that Santa had too many houses to go to, and he couldn't stop at every house. And that made her even more angry because Santa stopped at the homes of the white kids, but not at her home. Grandma shared many more intimate details about the hardships of leaving home at 14 to help support her family. She talked about the deaths of loved ones, including her husband, who was very ill with cancer. She said that he didn't want to die because at that point in time, their total life savings amounted to $5,000, and he knew that if he died, all their life savings would go toward his funeral. And what would she do then? Yes, we talked about hard times and all the illness she suffered, especially since her husband passed away. The Lord put me in this time and at this kitchen table for a special reason: to give Grandma comfort, to allow her to share her sorrows, and for one more reason. I reached into my pocket, took out some money, and pushed it across the table to Grandma and said, "This is for you to spend on Christmas." Her eyes grew large, and she thanked me with all her heart and said, "You really are Santa Claus, not just because of your hat." My friends, I could just see the little girl inside of her saying, "Yes, there is a Santa Claus, and he came to visit me in my house." At this point, Lanny was all done, so it was time to leave. Grandma followed me to the door, then put her arms out to give me a very hard hug. Did I mention that I love my job? The sequel, December 14th, 2012, 1 year later. This morning, I got a couple of smaller jobs done, then stopped at Remax to pick up another poinsettia plant. Delivered it, but the lady at the seniors lodge wasn't home. So Sam Block, after giving me a huge hug because of my visit yesterday, escorted me to Mildred's room. Placed the plant in a prominent place, and away I went, but not before getting another warm hug from Sam. Yes, I do love my job. Thank you, Remax staff. Back to the Remax office to pick up the last plant, and now a trip to the west. Problem. I remember that she lives in this trailer park, but I have no idea which trailer, or which number, or even her name. Santa is getting old, after all. So I drive up and down, trying to look for clues on the outside of the trailer, something that would tell me I was at the right one. After 10 minutes, I spot something, a small clue on the dish itself. So I stop the truck, go up the steps, and knock on the door. There is the sound of a dog inside. Good. Footsteps coming. Better. Footsteps stop at the door. Nothing. There is a peephole. Click. The door latch turns. A face appears. A puzzled look. Then a smile. Then an even broader smile and a further opening of the door with a welcome inside. I refresh her memory, but it doesn't take much. She is well aware of who I am. I tell her to wait a moment, as I have something in the truck for her. Now I have her total interest. I carry the poinsettia in, and she remarks on the hugeness of it and the beauty. She picks a spot. We strip the plastic, and it opens up to its full size. Now her eyes are almost as large as the plant. She is amazed. She asks me to come to the table and sit down. We have a wonderful chat, discussing how things are going in her life. Her big smile keeps returning, and she keeps calling me Santa. My friends, she is talking to the real Santa, the one which let her down so many years ago, but she is willing to forgive and forget. The time passes quickly, as I have another appointment. But there is one matter left. I ask her how her money situation is. She hesitates, but she knows that this Santa is quite aware of her circumstance and answers my direct questions. I offer to pay half her credit card bill. She accepts the money. And when I tell her that Santa is making up for all the times he disappointed her as a little girl, suddenly she claps her hands, just like a little girl, smiles big, and says, "You really are Santa." As I get up to leave, she gives me several hugs and tells me that I am welcome any time to visit or for a cup of tea. I believe that I get 3 or 4 more hugs before she lets me out of the door. Man, I love my job. Thank you, Remax staff, for making this possible.